seconds and then we will start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. Dear Mrs. Perko, Mr. Kovačev, Mr. State Secretaries, municipalities, dear panelists, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a warm welcome to the conference, How to Better Prepare Projects of Public Sectors for the Financing in the Organization of the Croatian Bank for Reconstruction and Development. HBOR is organizing this conference in order for the proactive support of Croatia and the regional development. The conference is organized in order to exchange information and to have an open dialogue to prepare quality and sustainable projects. We're in the new financial perspective that will last until 2027, and we have a generational opportunity to have all the funds from the EU in order to take them to influence our economy and to use them for the Croatian strategy 2023, competitiveness, secure country, recognizable culture, quality, and opportunities for everyone. One of the key factors for the using of all the funds is the preparation of sustainable projects that will improve our potentials and make our whole community better. The Croatian Bank for Reconstruction and Development, together with other actors, not only co-finances projects, it is also giving funds for the preparation of projects. And with that, she's making enough funds for all of the projects. The public sector, especially the local and regional bodies, know these projects, the projects for technical help, in the frame of which project this conference is being held. Before we start with the conference, I will ask Mrs. Perko, who is the head of the board of the Croatian Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Please. Thank you. Dear ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kovačev, Mr. Savić, all of the representatives of public authorities, agencies, banks, everybody who is here today, I welcome you here in front of the Croatian Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Welcome to our conference, How to Better Prepare Projects of Public Sector for Financing. We wanted to get together in Osijek for this conference, where other than this part, we would talk about all of these problems, but because of the epidemiologic conditions, we couldn't do that. So we had to transfer completely to an online conference. But on the other hand, it's not that bad. There is more than 350 participants here today, which is showing that this topic is very interesting. HBOR, from the beginning, is supporting local and regional bodies in their investment projects from national and from EU funds or resources. We made our strategy in December in 2019 for the period of 2020 to 2024. It has 5 key pillars of development. One is to support the economic development in the rural and urban area in Croatia. That is one of the 5 strategic goals of HBOR, of the Croatian Bank for Reconstruction and Development. That is very important for us to invest in the touristic and economic infrastructure in order to improve the development and in order to make new workplaces. Also, to influence the quality of life of all the citizens of Croatia. All of you know that you have to take care of the investments in your regions. We are not measuring how we develop from the infrastructure, but also while taking care of the communication network of other investments for today times and for the future of the citizens. That's why HBOR started the activities in these resources in order to improve the investments and in order to make a positive impact. What do we do? Only during last year, we gave support to more than 150 projects and more than 1.25 billion kuna. What kind of projects are that? We have large infrastructural projects. There are also smaller ones. Cultural centers, healthcare centers, and others. So it's a huge palette what we are actually financing. So we have many financial options. We have 1.5% to 1.5% per year, and you can pay it back until 15 years. Then we have an interest rate of 0.5% and we are investing in energy efficiency through financial instruments where the interest rate is 0.1 to 0.5% a year. And that depends on the development stage of each area. For example, for public lighting, it's 10 years. Financial instrument for energy efficiency is more than that. We haven't stopped only on these projects, but we are planning other financial services in the frame of the National Plan for Recovery and Resilience. We have 200 million kunas for the private sector and other measures from the multi-year financial frame. What we have to remember, if you're not going to remember anything, but only this is important. Sustainability will be important for future investments. When we are development of projects, we have to keep that in mind. No matter if they're public or private projects, they have to be green and sustainable. When thinking about that, when we're preparing such kind of projects, there is also one point is important. How to allocate the funds. Other than good credit options, we are trying to work on another part, and that is the development of a new system of technical help. With the European Investment Bank, we are trying to develop a technical help system. We're trying to help the preparation of these kind of projects. Ms. Bubanović said in the beginning that we have two projects of this kind. One is Elena and one is with the European Investment Advisory Hub. So these two programs are active now. What do they mean? The program Elena. So we have 2 million euros for the free documentation preparation for energy efficiency. Elena is both for the public and private sector. When I was talking about the conference for EU funds and what everybody remembered, we agreed to prepare the documentation for several projects, and more than 50% are from the public sector. The public sector is not more agile than the private sector. This showed that more people from the private sector were interested. In order to strengthen the capacity with the European Investment Advisory Hub, we are giving some services to make advisory and counseling services, how to structure and how to prepare projects of public sector. What does that mean? We will ensure free documentation from the beginning, from the designing of sustainable projects to finding of grants, credits, and other. This model is based on the analysis and practices of other European banks, on the analysis of needs, and by talking to many ministries and with regional coordinators and also with local and regional bodies. We will begin with a pilot project which will include a project where 4 local and regional bodies have to be from a less developed area. We will ensure a better realization with our help, and this conference will give us answers to many questions. Thank you to the European Investment Bank for supporting us in these projects. Thank you to all stakeholders and co-partners, to the ministries, to the regional and local government coordinators. I hope we have an interesting discussion, and please, if you have any questions, please let me know during or after the conference. I'm here for you at any time, and I hope that the panels will be interesting, that you will learn much new stuff, and I wish you a successful workday. Thank you.
Impresivnim brojkama koje ste podijelili s nama kad je u pitanju broj podržanih projekata, ali isto tako i kamatne stope, pa iznos sredstava koje ste ispregovarali iz Nacionalnog plana oporavka i otpornosti. Također čuli smo da Europska investicijska banka snažan partner Hrvatskoj banci za obnovu i razvitak dugi niz godina, naravno u svojim aktivnostima. Stoga mi je zadovoljstvo pozdraviti gospodina Antona Kovačeva, šefa Ureda Europske investicijske banke u Hrvatskoj. Gospodine Kovačev, izvolite.
The head of the Croatian office of the Croatian Bank for Reconstruction and Development is here today. I want to welcome you here in front of the Croatian Bank for Reconstruction and Development. I hope this conference will help us prepare projects better. The preparation of project is the most important part and the prerequisite for every successful project. I would like to emphasize that the Croatian Bank for Reconstruction and Development, as a development bank of the EU, is not financing only projects, but is trying to contribute to the successfulness of every project. So EIB is trying to support us with the European Commission with their advisory bodies. So we are providing not only advisory, but only technical help for the preparation of projects. I am very happy that we signed an agreement with HBOR in this year. And that is why we are holding this conference to help us prepare the projects in the local and regional bodies. I would especially like to emphasize the projects in less developed regions, less developed local and regional bodies, in order to contribute a more unilateral development of all parts of Croatia. The advisory center gave us funds, and that's why HBOR can choose and can support projects which need advisory services. And also by that, we can help local and regional bodies in order to prepare and implement projects, and in order to stimulate projects in less developed areas. Better developed areas will not be accepted from that, but we will try, and EIB will try, as a Croatian Development Bank and HBOR, will try to take care especially to the projects in local and regional bodies which belong to less developed ones. I would also like to emphasize that EIB and EIHI also support us in order to come to projects that are prepared in a quality manner. That is important for projects in the less developed areas in order to heighten the quality of the public sector in Croatia. This conference will give us the answers about the possibilities that were given and in which manner to use the funds. It is important to support each other, and that's why EIB is here to support the sustainable economy and to give support as well as the European funds, as well as EIB, and as well as HBOR, as financing some projects together, which are available in the multi-annual financial frame. All development banks, national banks or EU banks, EIB thinks of them as partners. And in Croatia, the most important partner is the Croatian Bank for Reconstruction and Development, or HBOR. EIB is ready to share all of its experience and knowledge with HBOR in order to improve the development of Croatian economy and to open more workspaces. In the end, I would like to welcome Mr. Savić, who joined us, and I wish all of the participants of this conference a good conference. And I'm sorry, as well as Tamara said, that we are not live today in Osijek, but at least we see each other like this. And I hope that the conference won't be less successful in this matter. I hope you will exchange knowledges and experiences in order to prepare the project that will be financed from the EU funds, from the RRF, or together with the IB and HBOR. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Kovačev. We are very happy to hear that HBOR and the European Investment Bank really have the focus on getting support to the local and regional bodies, not only in order to finance them, but also to give them support of the preparation of projects. You gave us a very good introduction to the panels, and we have 3 of them today at our conference. The first panel, we will hear a few information, what gives the National Plan of Recovery and Resilience, which activities are now going on when we're talking about the multi-annual financial frame, how the programs are going on, about the dynamics of calls. After the first panel, we will start with the topics of structuring of financially sustainable projects, which should contribute to our development. And at the end, we will hear more detailed information then how HBOR can support the local and regional bodies in the preparation of projects, and also what is the part of the local and regional coordinators. We will hear the experience from Lithuania and Denmark, and also some local experiences. How do they look at the help and support that they are given? I hope there are members and participants from the YouTube channel can hear us well, that they don't have any major technical troubles. We have about 2.5 hours. All of the participants who are listening to us via the YouTube channel can't participate live, but they can ask our panelists some questions, enter the discussion. You will be eyah@habor.hr. There will be an email address where you can ask questions. It will be shown at the end of every panel on our YouTube channel, and we will try to answer all of your questions and give you concrete answers. I see that our guests for the first panel have joined us. Please keep your cameras on, take care of your cameras. If you have any technical issues, just let us know. Mrs. Helga, I have technical problems. I will have to turn myself off for 2 minutes. No problem. I am Helga Bubanović-Devčić. I will be a moderator in today's conference. I forgot to let you know that we have speakers from other areas. We have simultaneous interpreting so that our participants can actively contribute to the conference. The topic of the first panel is for which purpose the local and regional bodies can use the funds. And we will talk about the financial frame for 2021-2024. The resource ministries are preparing projects, and the National Recovery and Resilience Plan is prepared and ready, and it was prepared in a record time. So thanks to Mr. Savić and to his team for all of his activities that they managed to do in a very short period. That led us to our first goal, and that is the approval of the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. We have reached all the program and all the regulatory requirements for the projects. With Mr. Savić, we will ask him a bit later about the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, but today with us are Mr. Šime Erlić, the State Secretary. He will talk about the process of programming and the program of Competitiveness and Cohesion. With us is also Zdravko Tušek. He's from the Ministry of Agriculture. And we will talk about the new strategic plan of the agriculture policy. Also, Zdravko Bubalo is here with us. Mr. Savić, thank you one more time that you are here today in our panel. The program has been accepted. About 6 billion euro is here for the period until 2026 for investments. Where do we find here the local and regional bodies? In which components can they count on the implementation of their projects? And when do we expect the first calls? First, thank you, Helga, for the nice welcome and the motivating words. Thank you to Ms. Perković and Mr. Kovačev for the nice introductory. Helga, you are completely right. The speed that we managed to implement this, to prepare this, will give us the possibility to implement it also that fastly. Some other of my colleagues, like colleague Tušek and colleague Erlić, helped me in this process. So this document and also the investments and the reforms have been managed with all of our forces together. The document has been accepted, and all of our plans have been accepted. The document has more than 1,000 pages, but when you read it, you can see quickly what kind of investment, what kind of time frames, what financial allocations are we talking about. So it is pretty clear for the ones who are interested in this topic. Thematically, we covered many things. I will talk about the most important ones. more than 3.6 billion euro we have allocated it to the economy, more than 26 billion kuna, 4.6 billion kuna to the public sector, more than 7 to the education, more than 5 to health, and more than 7 to the reconstruction of buildings. But when we're talking, so what is hidden behind these huge sums? Then we get to the possibilities which cover the local and regional bodies. The plan of recovery and resilience is only one part of everything. And that is not the only EU resource of financing the local and regional bodies. But if I could quickly map it, not to go into much detail, for example, the program of development of public water system is also funded. The goal group are the ones who are the users. So the program of public water system is more than 1 million kuna we have planned for that from the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. So the financing model is 80% of the funds from the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, 10% users, 10% Croatian waters. They're huge value amounts of money. Then we have for the local and regional bodies, we have plan 1 billion kuna for waste disposal within the recovery and resilience plan for the plan to lessen the waste disposal. That is about machinery for bio-waste, for the sorting of bio-waste for the local and regional bodies. And what I would emphasize, what has a big value and what is important for all local and regional bodies are large financial funds which are allocated for the field of science and education. 5 billion kuna is predicted for kindergarten schools. 1.6 million kuna is thought about for the kindergartens, for the reconstruction of kindergartens. We want to enlarge the capacity, and with the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, we want to make additional 20,000 spaces for additional 20,000 kids. Because the analysis showed us that children from 3 to 7 years, we don't have enough children in that age gap. We know that on the municipality level is 3 to 7% allocated funds in this field. And everything stays on the level of local and regional bodies. Then shortly I will mention grammar schools. 300 million kuna is allocated for the reconstruction of these schools, of elementary schools. Because we have schools with shifts, with 2 or 3 shifts. In that kind of way, we want to contribute to the number of hours that our children spend in education. In the end, 3.6 million kunas is predicted for high schools. That is all in the interest of local and regional bodies. The call for tender will be soon. First, kindergartens. The time for the implementation, for the application is soon. So all of these projects, the waste disposal, the educational systems, the implementation period is until 2024. So I emphasized only a few things. So there are funds, but we have to get to the projects, and there are many of them at the level of local and regional bodies. Yes, this is very impressive to hear. Some of our participants gave us the questions, when will the call for tender start for the building of kindergartens and school? The tenders will be soon ready. Yes, I can say right now about the dynamics, what we are expecting. We are expecting a call until the end of this year for kindergartens, but the Ministry of Education is important for this, and we are waiting for the calls for the modernization and reconstruction of kindergartens. That is the first one that will be going on, and later tenders for elementary and high schools. The Ministry of Education is the leader of this program and these projects, and all of these calls will start soon. So we have enough funds, we have the needs, and now we have the time for the implementation. Maybe one more short question. I know there will be interest on the level of our local and regional bodies. The NRRP, so the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, has the opportunity and the possibility to connect with the local and regional bodies. Will there be any special encouragements or stimulations for that? Yes, I see you have read some things in detail in the Recovery and Resilience Plan. So what we are trying to support as an activity is the free incentive to the connecting of functions. So that is voluntary. In the budget for next year, 100 million kunas are financial incentives. So the local and regional bodies will be stimulated in the next few months to connect their functions. And we will determine what kind of intensity it will be. So how to connect the financial funds from the country and from the local and regional bodies. Not to lessen the transfers from the country to the local and regional bodies, they will have the same funds in the next 2 years, but also additional funds will be ensured to improve their efficiency, to lessen their costs. They will get additional funds that they can invest in infrastructural projects. The resources will be large, but it will all depend on the types of the projects. We have interested many local and regional bodies that are connecting their functions. First, we need a decision from our government, and then we need a call to the local and regional bodies to show their interest if they are really interested in connecting their functions. Especially in Slavonia, they have already connected their functions. They have the main head for several functions. We need correct criteria, possibilities of financing that will all be carried out in the next few months. It's our obligation within the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. This process will last for the next 3 to 4 months, and then we will offer a connecting to the local and regional bodies. We want to influence the functional connecting for a minimum of 40 local and regional bodies in the period to 2024. It's not a one-time event. It's a continuous process, but a voluntary process with big and large resources. This sounds very good, and I believe that local and regional bodies have interest to hear more about this. And I think that functional connection will improve the projects, will improve larger scale projects that will have a larger impact, and probably we will more effectively plan this kind of projects. Thank you, Zvonimir, one more time. I guess the audience will have additional questions. But before we turn to the new financial frame, please let us stay to the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. So HBOR has 200,000 million kunas for interest rates. What services do you plan for the public sector? Hello to everyone. I'm sorry for the technical issues, why I couldn't be here at the beginning of this discussion. I'm sorry that we couldn't be together live, but this is also well if it can be in a different kind of way. HBOR, in the frame of the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, at the key plan which regulates the use of EU funds, HBOR will gain a value of an amount of 2 billion kuna, or 1,925,000 kuna. That money HBOR needs to transfer in a specific way to the Croatian economy. How will it do that? There will be several measures, which goal is to stimulate the investments in order to improve the efficiency in the public and private sector. There are 4 main types of financial means that HBOR wants to implement. First are credit measures, direct credits of HBOR. The other is subfinancing the interest rate for HBOR and development banks. The third are the financial schemes, and 4 are in the investment in financial capital. When we're talking about direct credits of HBOR and the first measure, the direct credits are for small and medium enterprises, and those are credits in the amount of more than 100,000 euro for startups, young entrepreneurs, beginners, women, then investment in less developed regions. The credit potential of this measure is 500 million kuna. The other measure is co-financing the interest rate for the HBOR credits, but also credits that will be approved by business banks. The subvention fund is here 600 million kuna, from which 400 million kuna will be allocated to the private sector and about 200 million kunas to the public sector. The credit potential that can be generated from that kind of subvention fund is about 3 to 4 billion kuna. Third measure are warranty schemes for the credits of banks for big interpreters. Those warranty fund will be 600 billion kuna, and this fund will be able to generate a credit potential from 3 to 4 billion kuna. Fourth kind of measure is the investment in equity capital in the amount of 225 million kuna. With all the other measures that I mentioned so far, we would like to improve the financial resources and, on the other hand, make them more acceptable and more favorable for the public sector. We try to cover the whole market. We try to meet the needs of all interpreters. Thank you, Mr. Čuvalo. You said 2 billion kunas. I lost a zero when I said 200,000 million. So the support of the public and private sector and the implementation of absorption of funds and several models of financing and co-financing can positively impact the sustainability of projects. I would like to go back to the multi-annual financial frame, and I would like to hear additional information about the programs, the multi-annual programs. And there we have some questions from the audience about the modernization, reconstructions of kindergarten and schools, the amounts of co-financing. So I hope we will have enough time to answer all of these questions. I would like to say a warm welcome to Mr. Tušek and Mr. Erlich. So please, Mr. Erlich, let us know what is the process and program of programming. You're coordinating the whole process as a partnership, and you are making a new program. When do you expect the program to be accepted, adopted? And we have a new approach to territorial development. How will it affect the local and regional bodies? What will be their possibilities? Dear Helga, I hope you can hear me well. Thank you. Thank you to the whole organizational team for inviting me today. Today's topic, I hope I will contribute with it to today's conference. When talking about programming, we are in a period where everything is being programmed. We have a new multi-annual financial frame. We have funds from the cohesion, from the agriculture policy. So the programming is ending. That is a cycle which happens once in 7 or more years, as it follows the financial perspective of the EU. And we are now in a point in time when, on the other hand, we are finishing one perspective, and on the other hand, we are planning and programming a new financial perspective. I have to say, to make better understanding, the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, which is one instrument as an answer to this pandemic, and that will give us strength together with the normal funds to make a step forward to a more sustainable, more green, more competitive, and more competitive society. We have very much large funds, 65 billion kuna for cohesion, The Ministry of Regional Development coordinates it with these programs. So the European Social Fund is being coordinated by the Ministry of Work, but there has to be synergy between these programs. But our focus is on the operational program of the competitiveness and cohesion and the territorial development. The whole financial perspective, which we are finishing, most of the users, most of our colleagues from the system and our consultants, they are used to the program of competitiveness and cohesion. And we are now having other priorities that we have in, for example, in 2013. There will be a final document of the program of competitiveness and cohesion, and we will have a little different documents with a little different possibilities of investment than we have now. But the investments are similar that they were in 2014 and 2020. We are continuing the big capital projects, like the projects from the traffic, from environment protection, agglomeration, better waste management, circular economy, about waste management, and so on. So the story is here with all projects that we have to continue and with new projects in order to give resources to local and regional bodies and other public subjects that will be a candidate from this new multi-annual financial frame. It had the most infrastructural components. We expected most from it. We as cohesion users in Croatia have much need for investment in infrastructure in Croatia, and it will be continued through competitiveness and cohesion. We will be able to get closer to the most developed countries of the EU. When we're talking about the programming and programming processes, we started it in this year. We have representatives from the public sector, from the private sector, and we had many comments, many suggestions. We are in the final phase of document developments. We are having conversations with the EU when we are talking about the documents on the EU level and on our ministry levels towards the European Commissions. We have many meetings about these topics. And at the end of the year, we think that we will have an operational program for competitiveness and cohesion. And together with the Commission, we would like to get an informal green light and then a final green light to prepare the final documentations. And we think through the first quarter of next year, we will be in the phase to bring the documents to that kind of level to satisfy the Commission, and that we have the first submission towards the Commission. And then they have their own time to take in the documents, to edit them, and to end this procedure, this process. You wanted me to talk about the integrated territorial program. We are used to the program, to human potentials. We will continue with the program, but this territorial program is something new. What is important to mention that with all of these instruments from agriculture, from all the other fields, all the users of local and regional bodies will be able to apply to all of these instruments. One instrument doesn't exclude the other. if you're a user, if you're a public company, a private factory. If you apply through the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, you can apply to another program also. It is only important to know to what program do you belong. We have a new policy of regional development. The European Commission had a goal to bring Europe closer to citizens. There are the 5th goals in the 5th policy, which allows that the money of EU funds is focused to the areas, and the representatives of these areas decide about these investments on the basis of the territorial plans. Calls have been focused horizontally for the whole state. For example, in energetics, in educational system, and so on. The users, the local and regional bodies, have been competitive according to their strategy to the tenders that were important to them. But now we're talking about an instrument which is better for integration and synergy on the local development. The intention of the EU is to bring the decision-making from an EU level down to the local level. We are giving an instrument, but also much more responsibility to the local and regional bodies to be included in the decision-making. Through programming, they are included in other ministries. With that, they can integrate, they can plan 3 or 4 investments, 4 or 5 investments on some level, in some territorial field, how to get specific integration for that area in they're working in. This is a new approach. We're talking about allocations on the level of Croatia, it stays the same, but this is a new approach for that. What the program is recognizing are the areas in Croatia, so the national strategy is changing. The regional development has to be the same, the acts have the same. So we have 4 areas in the national strategy.
Ovdje ono što sam prije kazao, a to je da ako je neko u brdsko-planinskome području i
if someone is in one area and it's candidated for one program, it doesn't mean that it can't candidate for another program. We have possibilities, we have the freedom. We have the freedom for municipalities, for town, for other towns, for other subjects. They have the possibility to be competitive in other tenders. But if you're one area, there is a tender that they have a much more priority.
Vremena, malo ću vas ovdje zaustaviti i samo ću reći da vjerujem da jedinice lokalne i regionalne samouprave pozdravljaju ovakav pristup.
Dakle, I guess the local and regional bodies are welcoming such kind of approach, and they're included in the implementation in the process of projects. So we have a little bit more of a decentralization when we're talking about planning and implementing on funds. There are huge possibilities, and we expect the document to be implemented next year. And the calls will begin right away. So 2022, 2023 will be key years for new operational programs, new recovery and resilience plans. So the key message of this conference is to prepare the projects to absorb the funds. A parallel program is going on in the Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Tušek. We will give him the opportunity to tell us about it. We have a specific situation. We are in a transit period. We have gained additional funds, and the measures from the rural development are going on. And we have a new strategic plan for the Common Agriculture Policy for 2021-2027. The local and regional bodies had enough funds from the last financial programs. We invested in kindergartens, and I see we have additional questions to this topic. What do you plan from the new strategic plan in the new period? Where is the Ministry of Agriculture in this process, and when can we accept the calls?
Evo, hvala lijepa. Dobar dan, lijepi pozdrav svima, organizatorima i sudionicima ove rasprave i panela. Ja ću se osvrnuti na područje koje je u domeni Ministarstva poljoprivrede. Sami ste rekli, znači do sada smo imali u razdoblju 2014-2020 program ruralnog razvoja po kojem smo raspisivali natječaje koji su prije svega bili usmjereni i razvoju poljoprivrede i konkurentnosti poljoprivrednih proizvođača, ali između ostalog i unapređenju kvalitete života u ruralnim prostorima. Razlika postojeće situacije u Ministarstvu poljoprivrede u odnosu na druge je tome što zapravo reforma zajedničke poljoprivredne politike na europskoj razini kasni, tako da smo po postojećem programu dobili određena financijska sredstva koje raspisujemo u ovoj i u sljedećoj godini. Naime, radi se o 1,75 milijardi eura kroz takozvano prijelazno razdoblje po postojećem programu ruralnog razvoja. Upravo smo prije nekoliko dana završili jedan veliki natječaj gdje smo stavili na raspolaganje više od 380 milijuna kuna za projekte jedinica lokalne samouprave, prije svega dječje vrtiće, vatrogasne domove, društvene domove, objekte sportske namjene, kao i tržnice za poljoprivredne proizvode. Interes je poprilično velik, spremnost projekata je izuzetno kvalitetna i dobra jer smo unutar ovih nešto više od 7 godina uistinu naučili sve one lekcije koje su bitne. Ja ću samo reći da interes višestruko prelazi mogućnosti i trenutno dostupna financijska sredstva, tako da tražimo još dodatne uštede u sustavu i moguće realokacije. Ali da se vratimo na strateški plan zajedničke poljoprivredne politike, on je u završnoj fazi izrade, mi smo u postupku konzultacija sa dionicima, službeno ćemo ovaj program podnijeti Europskoj komisiji do kraja ove godine, a nakon toga nam slijede i službene usuglašavanje i komunikacija sa komisijom i očekujemo da bi program bio usvojen sredinom do ljeta sljedeće godine. Taj novi strateški plan zajedničke poljoprivredne politike obuhvaća 3 razine. Prva razina su potpore dohotku, odnosno izravna plaćanja, takozvani poticaj u žargonu. Zatim su tu mjere iz ruralnog razvoja, kako investicijske mjere za proizvođače, tako i za određene investicije za poboljšanje kvalitete života u ruralnim prostorima. Zatim su tu određena plaćanja koja su bitna za postizanje određenih ekoloških i klimatskih ambicija sukladno europskim politikama i imamo određene sektorske programe, a prije svega to se radi o sektorskom programu za voće i povrće, dosadašnju vinsku omotnicu te pčelarski program. Kao što je ovdje spomenuto, u prošlom razdoblju financirali smo
we have also included several hundreds of different projects, water paths, kindergartens. I will mention that we have financed more than 300 kindergartens. We also plan to finance 10 more.
lokalne samouprave ozbiljno prelaze već milijardu kuna.
Financing of local and regional bodies has been more than 1 billion kuna. We also plan to finance several kinds of roads, water paths, green markets, childcare centers, the development of technological and business incubators directed to agricultural production. And I'm convinced that all the lessons which have taught us will make us more successful. In the leadership function, we have the bottom-up approach where the local and regional bodies participate in our LRGUs. There will be more than 700 million kunas available for these projects. The calls from the strategic plan will be published on a continuous basis, beginning with 2023. We are currently preparing administrative measures to facilitate this project. Thank you very much. So we can say that a similar kind of investing and allocation of funds is expected within the new strategic plan for 2023 to 2027. Thank you very much for all this information. I hope that your team and the can answer some questions if there are any. There is a question if one or more calls are expected within the new strategic plan, and if there will be chances for additional construction of kindergartens, also for the financing of schools which are currently at sharing a building. If you have any information regarding that, I know that programs are being finished. However, maybe if you can shortly say something regarding these questions. The focus is on kindergartens and primary schools. If I may say briefly, I think that partly we have answered the question. We do expect kindergartens to be the first in line when it comes to finances. Regarding kindergartens, now it is estimated that the projected costs will be 9,000 kunas per square meter. So if the costs are within these boundaries, then they will be covered fully. Details are still to be worked out, but the full investment is acceptable within these costs. 9,000 kunas per square meter. So if the project is financially acceptable, it will be financed up to 100%. Kindergartens are the first in line, then primary schools and secondary schools. The Ministry of Education is responsible for this. The process is continuous with the prerequisite that the construction is finished at the latest until 2026. Thank you very much. Would anybody like to add something? I would like to add briefly. I've already said that we have just finished one call in which it was possible to finance kindergartens. In coordination with the Ministry of Education, we are also planning the new period, and we are planning to add new calls within that period of 2023 to 2027. Thank you very much. I am ending the first panel. I thank you and wish you a lot of success in your future projects. I hope you can stay until the end of the conference. Thank you very much, everybody. Now, I would like to ask our panelists of the second part with the topic of planning and financing. Secondary projects. We have Ms. Zuzana Laušin-Katanec, the Director of the Crediting Sector, Ms. Dijana Bezjak from the Ministry of Regional Development, Mr. Luka Novosel from the Ministry of Regional Development, Mr. Justinas Bučis from the Lithuanian Development Bank, VIPA, Mr. Žarko Masanović and Benjamin Terzić from the Embassy of the Kingdom of Denmark, who will discuss their experience with similar projects. We also have Ms. Ivana Šimunec, who is the manager at Ernst & Young Consulting. Welcome, everybody. I hope you managed to listen to the panelists of the first panel. I hope it was interesting for everybody. The programs are in the final phase. First calls are being prepared. The first call is about to be published. There are lots of projects from the previous period, but the preparation is being continued. We're also in the new strategic plan cycle. New strategic plans are being developed and developmental plans. They are also, of course, connected with the planning of projects. An important role in that is played by the finances. We want our projects to be sustainable and, of course, the funds to be used well. On that topic, we are going to discuss with our current panelists. But before the discussion begins, I would also like to welcome Mr. Justinas Bučis, the Director of the Development at the Lithuanian Development Bank, VIPA. I would also like to ask him to share his experience from Lithuania. Which projects are being funded? Is there a difference in quality when looking at the developmental, the years in which the projects have been funded? Mr. Bučis, please, the floor is yours.
Možete li samo unmute svoj mikrofon? Can you just please unmute your microphone?
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, so if thank you for having me here, and we're looking really appreciate the cooperation with HBOR, and we have personal connections with Ms. Tamara and Ms. Nell and Maya, and we really appreciate this opportunity. And if you would allow me to share the screen, I would maybe like to share the presentation that I prepared. I will go very briefly through that presentation, not taking your time, but that would maybe allow you to see those practical examples, how we develop our products, what we are looking for, what are principles, how we finance one or other sector. So currently, I see that host disabled participation screen sharing. So if your technical guys could allow me to share the screen.
If you cannot do it, then I will try do it myself.
Yeah, already. Oh, you're already unlocked.
Aha, okay, super, great.
Do you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see the presentation.
Okay, good. Okay, so I will not go into details about our organization. I have a few slides here about our organization. We are a young organization. We're similar to HBOR, although we are not a bank, but we are similar as national promotional institution as HBOR in Lithuania. We do both financing through financial intermediaries, and we do also financing by ourselves. And we have some experience and good experience in especially sustainable project financing. So most of our projects, more than 85% of our projects are being financed in sustainable financing field. And as you may see here, we have quite a lot of sectors that we are engaged in, starting from buildings, multi-apartment buildings, public buildings, water treatment, cultural heritage. We do have both structural fund-based financing and commercial-based finance. But I'm not trying to bore you with boring stuff about our organization, so I'll try to do my presentation to practical examples of two cases of two products, what were the challenges, what were the corrective measures, and then I will focus more on the lessons learned and how we proceed with other projects with those lessons learned. So starting with challenges that we have in multi-apartment building sector. When we started to finance project and together with local authorities to structure the product itself, it became apparent that there was big distrust with government initiatives. There was a failed public relations program, poorly organized apartment owners. Nobody was willing to take initiative to start a modernization of their buildings. Uncertainty about monthly payments, the eligibility for heating bill compensations, and not willing to change anything about that. Possible state aid issues, legality of personal data handling. One is also important thing was that you could turn then multi-apartment buildings against their will to the borrowers. So on the other hand, the other example, this is different and maybe more close to this event, is the product that we structure for public building modernization financing. And the problem, the challenges that we encounter is that public sector is very much dependent on the grant and subsidy schemes. And they are not willing to go in the loan financing or other kind of repayable instruments financing. Economic availability also was out of the question due to the payback periods and low energy prices, high investment costs. There was need for additional subsidies for modernization in order to make projects commercially viable. Fiscal debt of municipalities was out of the question because if they go to the loans, they will increase its fiscal debt. Data availability about energy efficiency of the buildings, and in any kind of energy efficiency project, also the street lighting, there's lack of data. ESCOM models is a scary beast for everybody in Lithuania, especially it was scary at the beginning. Obligations, the building owners were not obliged to do anything about their building. So they were not pushed to do anything about their building. And actually project promoters were willing not to do only energy efficiency measures, but they were willing to do more for the building. They were willing to do also internal reconstruction of the building to have a better and more comfortable working conditions. There were also other challenges like banks' reluctance to go into new niche markets, risk averse. Lithuania is a special case as a small market with only six banks being active here in Lithuania, majority of them being Scandinavians and very conservative ones. Also, we fall into the so-called success of the lowering gas price, because with that we get lower energy prices, which meant higher payback period. Construction sector limitation. So if we have a lot of projects being renovated, then definitely we'll go into the gap in the construction sector, because we cannot expand here this sector in very rapid phase. There were some corrective measures launched, like project owners were appointed for the program itself, which was responsible. Because if there are 2 or 3 or 4 responsible ministries, owners, then there is nobody which is responsible. Municipalities were involved, and on the municipal levels, they were asked to draw various performing building lists. They were appointed administrators, which started to facilitate process. Technical assistance for project preparation was issued. Promotional campaigns were launched, resolved by such introduced in order to increase project viability or commercial viability. Quality system introduced, which allows now to make those projects of better quality. The loans were associated to the apartment, but not to the natural person, which meant that we are not turning apartment owner against his will to borrower. We are attaching the loan to apartment itself, and if apartment owner changes, the new apartment owner has to repay the loan. So also simplification and standardization of procedures was a very good example how we managed to increase willingness to use this program. And then in terms of corrective measures in public buildings, there were also changes, like centralized public real estate manager was introduced, which started to do project on behalf of the ministries. Technical assistance measures were introduced. Obligation systems was also introduced. Now the not only one ministry was responsible for energy efficiency, but also the ministries that own those buildings are obliged to renovate the buildings. ESCO model development is still ongoing, but we are developing that. I'm not saying that we are solved all the problems. There are challenges still, and we are working on that. But that made us. We have over 100 projects that been contracted, and some of them already renovated through this public building project, and over 5,000 buildings in multi-apartment building sector. But I would like maybe more focus on lessons learned, what we found out when we are creating the product, when we are structuring the program. So maybe those lessons are more important to local authorities, how they should go about that. But some of that may be also interesting to project promote. So first of all, in-depth market assessment is the key, because when we do the initial start and initial work with the particular sector, we go in deep of the assessment of the sector. We include as many of stakeholders as we can. We try to understand their challenges, what they are encountering, what are their. We cannot standardize product for everybody, because definitely there will be different cases and to come across different situations, but we try to understand the majority of the problems that they encounter. Also, it's sometimes it's important to have in-house experience to critically evaluate what is done by the consultants, or to do the assessment analysis by the authority, by the public sector itself. Consistent political support is very important, because financial instruments doesn't fly with the creation. You need to improve and communicate to public authorities that okay, there will be no grants, or there will be grants, but there will be only partial grants, and you will have to start using financial instruments. So if a financial instrument doesn't fly, that doesn't mean that it won't fly in the long run. With multi-apartment buildings, we had 7 years of struggling, but we had very consistent political support for financial instruments. And now we have one of the best success in the Europe in terms of multi-apartment building renovation. Mm-hmm. Grants should be complementing financial instruments, but not competing with them. So you cannot have financial instrument and grant as a separate instrument in, say, a water treatment sector. or water sector, which means that you have to join both financial instrument and grants, and that would allow to gradually introduce financial instruments, but also make projects more financially viable for project promoters. Support of reforms is a key, because in many cases financial instrument doesn't fly because there are not enough political system in particular sectors are stagnated and it's not effective. Say in electric sector we have now free market conditions. In water sector we're going there. We are making a reform in this sector for 7 years, and it will take 2 more years to go to free market conditions in this sector as well. But support for the reforms also is a key here. Facilitating of financial instruments is, I think, on the third line in the priority list, because I already mentioned you have to have a process owner. You have to have somebody responsible, one entity which is responsible for particular program and its implementation. Because if you have 2 entities or more, then they will just switch from each other and say that entity doesn't do that and we cannot do that, and it's similar for process. Technical assistance facilities, like Tamara mentioned, that there is a technical assistance facility from Elana for project preparation is a good thing to have, and this allows for project promoters to more focus on investment rather than finding funds for preparation of the technical projects for a particular investment. Promotion, awareness raising campaigns is a key. And actually, when we start launching, especially for private sector, when we launched those awareness raising campaigns, that was a big raise in project portfolio. I also would like to say that not only motivating measures somebody doesn't work. You need to have punishing as well. Both of those punishing and motivating measures have to introduce at the same time. Because when we introduce grants for multi-apartment buildings, when we introduce different technical assistance measures, people still didn't want to go into the project. But when we start to say, okay, from the country, from the state perspective, it doesn't matter if I pay for low-income family for their monthly installment of the renovation loan or for their heating bill. And I'm saying and state the same, I will not pay your heating bill compensation if you vote against this project. Then process started to roll out. But at the same time, state would say, okay, if you are low-income family and you are eligible for heating bill compensation, then we will pay, instead of heating bill compensation, we will pay monthly installment of that loan, and you will have very low heating bill with the modernization. Same thing also applies to also different private entities. It's harder to apply that to public entities, but it also could be done. We have also similar case. And simplification, standardization is also here very important. One-stop shop, it's very important. It's hard for project applicants, especially those that are smaller ones, to know all the information in the state, all the funding sources. So if you have just one application in one place that they could come and apply for financing, then then that would work. In our institution, we have instruments where we blend 4 funding instruments with different eligibility criteria, and we rather focus on the need of applicant rather than on the conditions of the funding instrument, say structural fund eligibility criteria. Quality also important. I'll not go into details. I could go for an hour on that topic. Other observations already mentioned. Slow start of IFIs should be expected. It shouldn't be the financial instrument is developed through 1 to 2 years. Then the start of that financial, the pickup of that financial years, it takes also additional 2-3 years. So don't expect financial instrument to fly, especially in those sectors that are very dependent on the grant schemes. Even more could be time could be allocated for that. Good planning, milestones, timely corrections if needed is also important, because definitely you will not have a perfect product at the start, at the launch of the product. You'll encounter different challenges because those are new sectors. Those maybe could be new reforms that already implemented. So you will need to adjust and amend and have a better project in the end. Use of national promotion institutions like BOR is a key, because usually local players, local financial players, commercial banks are not willing to go into new because they don't have track record. The risks are higher, and especially in infrastructure projects, the risk capital players would increase their price and investment price. So we have also fall in the pit, in the traps of our success when we launched project and we made adjustments and project of multi-apartment building starting to pick up. So don't focus on attracting investment at early stages. Focus on attracting investment when you have already some track record, when you already have project pipeline in line, where you already have applications on the table. Then only look for other private investors. Start with public funds first. So those are main findings that we have. We have definitely many more that we could share, but those are main that I would like to stress in this presentation.
Hvala vam najljepša, gospodine Bučis, posebice na ovim podijeljenim lekcijama s nama. Mislim da su jako dobre.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bučis, for the lessons shared. I think this will be very useful for the ministries involved and for our Bank of Reconstruction and Development. I believe we will have time for some questions. You have given us an excellent introduction for Ms. Diana Bezjak. Financial instruments in Croatia were implemented from the previous period. And I would say that it is a great success, or the success has been really great. Now, maybe based on that success, and I would also like to say that Croatia has been recognized as one of the member states which has managed to organize financial instruments well in the previous period up to 2020, and has been shown as a good example. Now, based on the 7 years of experience that we have from the previous period, Mrs. Bezjak, what is the Ministry of Regional Development planning when it comes to financial instruments? Is it planning some instruments for the regional sector, for the local sector? And what do you think is how much demand is there going to be? Because we are still going to have many calls for funding. So, welcome.
Ja ne čujem gospođu Bezjak, ne znam molit ću naše tehničare ako nam mogu pomoći. Dijana, čujete li nas? Ne čujemo Dijanu.
We cannot hear Mrs. Bezjak.
Tehničari, Dijana, da je možda do vašeg mikrofona ili tehnike vaše, možda da malo probate nariktati zvuk.
In the meantime, I'm going to switch to Mrs. Suzana Laušin-Katanec. We have heard what VIPA is doing, which which projects it is offering. We have found out about two instruments. What are the areas in which the Croatian Bank for Reconstruction and Development is financing the public sector? Can you hear me well? When creating its programs of loans and grants for the public sector, firstly, I'm talking about the financing and the loans for large projects, which are vitally important for development and prosperity of the country, such as the roads, communication networks, water infrastructure. This is what HBOR is doing. But also in our focus are projects such as Tamara mentioned in the beginning regarding energy efficiency. Those are specifically projects for renewable energy sources. I also need to state that the situation is putting the focus also on the investments of business subjects, which need to which need development, especially in the Sisak-Moslavina county due to the earthquake. There is also the financing of capital within the ENCF program, National Capital Financing Facility. And in this sense, we want to turn towards everything that's green, whether it is green entrepreneurship, green infrastructure, payments for the ecosystem, or compensation measures for pollution. In the previous period, we can say we have financed a set of such projects, such as waterways, the building of social infrastructure such as kindergartens, homes for the elderly people, hospitals. Also, the energy efficiency of schools. There are also different projects for which we are trying to finance through our programs and the programs of the financing of the public sector, especially programs from the EU funds, but also in cooperation with ministries. I would also like to emphasize that for all the local and regional bodies, we want to be the first choice of a bank to which they turn for loans. And in this way, we can continue further to be more efficient. Thank you very much. So green projects are in the focus. Maybe one more question for the beginning. Of course, the project documentation is necessary for such projects. What are the challenges for the local and regional bodies in terms of the documentation they need to submit to HBOR, to the Croatian Bank for Reconstruction and Development, when they want to get funding? This is definitely not easy. Preparing the application for HBOR is not the biggest challenge, but the biggest challenge is the documentation that needs to be prepared before the applicant submits the application to us, because we do not request anything in addition to the documentation that is required from a project. So when the client or the local or regional body knocks at our door, we surely require the project documentation, which they have already had to gather as a request within the project. This is important for the preparation of the loans on our side. And the documentation also depends on the kind of the project that is being prepared. For example, sometimes it is modernization of the public lighting, or it can be the rebuilding of roadways. The documentation is simply different when it comes to different projects. And of course, it needs to be in line with the relevant laws. Also, our clients, when applying, they of course need to do some investment studies of the feasibility studies, which will help them and us, of course, in rating the project. Oftentimes, such projects are financed from the EU funds, and they have certain criteria. The key, one of the key factors is that the clients need to have the feasibility, financial feasibility, and that the project needs to meet those standards. We need to see what the client has done to meet the requirements. And of course, we know that not all projects are financially feasible. However, they can still be economically relevant because they contribute to the whole community. And then there is EU financing for such projects. I think that HBOR can provide help in that sense. When it comes to preparing the project documentation, it has also been said that there is technical assistance which HBOR provides for the clients, whether it is from ELAN programs or EHA programs. Thank you very much for this information. Of course, projects are not always financially feasible, especially public financing projects. However, they are economically or socially important, and this is an important factor when approving funds. That's right. Thank you very much. So it is important to take into account both the financial feasibility and economic viability of a project. This is important when it comes to the project success and the life cycle of the project. So apart from the financial feasibility, it's also very important when preparing the project to have the wider strategy in view. There is a strategic framework for the project, and the project needs to meet those requirements in order to achieve the developmental goals. In that sense, I would ask Mr. Luka Novosel to give us some advice and information on the phase of strategic planning and what the local and regional bodies need to know when it comes to preparing such projects. Also, as we are developing new strategies, we have all the strategic documents that are relevant in order to be able to prepare the projects. Hello, everybody. We are communicating in Croatian. Is it right? Yes. So when it comes to preparing the different regulations at local level, they are in different stages of finalization. Documents at the level of, at the national level are not yet ready, but we do expect the first one to be accepted soon. the remaining documents will be within a certain time period, will be finished. There's also the strategy of the development of urban areas. This is linked to the EU regulation, but they also have an element of strategic planning. When it comes to preparing projects, they need to be in line. Well, they should actually be based on the strategy of a certain area of local government. When it comes to strategies, we usually do not achieve the maximum effect of the strategy when it comes to a longer period. So it's important to define the good points of each level of local or regional bodies. Then we come to the projects which will help us achieve our aims. For example, kindergartens were mentioned. Of course, without a high quality of kindergarten support, young people will not go and live in that region. And then this affects the development and the attraction of people who will be using that infrastructure. Therefore, this infrastructure is important. I have been in touch with certain mayors who have been telling me that kindergartens are full and that they need expansion because young people with children want to come and live there. Especially one of the reasons why they are interested is because there is the necessary infrastructure related to kindergartens and primary schools. In this sense, there is a contribution to strategic goals. Therefore, we need a strategy plan first to see what we want to achieve, and then we can see our budget and the financial instruments which we are going to apply to achieve these goals, which we want within a strategy and a certain period. This might be a change in thinking, but this is important if we want our projects to be viable, sustainable, and feasible. So there are large amounts of funds which are given for the building of kindergartens, but those local or regional bodies have a long-term, they enter long-term loans, and this is also important to have in mind. They enter long-term obligations when kindergartens are being funded. There are, in this sense, different documents in which the government defines what is going to be implemented in which period and which strategic aims are going to be realized in which period. Thank you very much. So the message is actually that if we do not connect the aims of the project with the strategy goals, then the planning is not going to achieve, the planning of financial instruments is not going to help us and contribute to the achievement of goals. Thank you. This has been very inspiring for me. I think that in the meantime, we have managed to resolve the technical problems with Mrs. Bezjak. Diana, can we hear you? Yes. Excellent. So maybe I'm going to repeat the questions. Let me explain in the introduction, just like Mr. Erlich explained. We are planning new projects for the local bodies. and rural development.
Specifičnih ciljeva ITP-a za 21-23 za projekte urbanog razvoja, prometnog razvoja, razvoja turističke infrastrukture, kulturne, prirodne baštine i slično. A novina je upravo u tome što se ovdje radi o projektima koji dozvoljavaju kombiniranje financijskih instrumenata sa bespovratnim sredstvima uz pomoć jedne opcije koja se zove oprost glavnice, znači se mogu unaprijed u projektu definirati određeni kriteriji temeljem kojeg se kad se projekt završi.
Sorry, I couldn't hear the speaker. Now it's better. So when the project is finished, we can follow very simple rules for financial instruments. And cities didn't have so much experience with financial instruments as our entrepreneurs, but more than 9,000 entrepreneurs were using our financial instruments and our loans. We had more than 10 financial instruments, which showed that implementation of projects was more faster than the choosing of a project, all of these controls. So all of this was much faster, and our end users weren't even aware that there were funds of the EU, so they were implementing the projects as they were implemented from regular business. That is why we wanted to add this new possibility. So our goal would be that so I'm telling this for all our listeners today. When you are preparing your territorially strategies or your development documents that you heard from our colleague Novoso, think about what are the projects that can be commercially cost effective. So which can pay off for themselves. We know that there are many projects like this. In the last 15 years, the Ministry of Regional Development collected ideas, had a project base, and I think that this will be interesting for everyone from the local and regional level, because we're talking about projects that they were always talking about, but they never could finance them from grants. Because if you want to finance something from grants, it can't have any revenues, it can't have any national aids. If we're talking about public projects, there can't be any commercial contacts. So that we are talking about swimming pools, gyms, and other contents that couldn't be financed from grants. So there are projects like this. So think in a developmental way, that we're talking a project that would be sustainable. So local and regional bodies have to take on a loan to get such funds. So if they had 85% of the funding, they have to make sure that they have 15% of their own funding. They have to have enough money for VAT and some costs that can be added in the end. So about 50 to 60% of the projects are within the budget of local and regional bodies. And when we add all of the life cycle of a project, that is the financing of a project for the next 10 to 15 years. So this is a huge redevelopment of how to structure a project, not fall on the back of taxpayers, but to add some commercial content to citizens, to make business opportunities to our local entrepreneurs, to get involved in these projects and in these public infrastructure projects in order to pay off this infrastructure, in order to be as much cost effective as possible. So be creative, there will be many possibilities. the only boundary is your imagination for these kind of projects. So the other day I was presenting about it. So think about that a city library can be in a shopping center. You can do a lot in a touristic infrastructure, skiing parks, adrenaline parks. You can build hotels in castles, so you don't have to be limited to the projects that we knew so far, when you had to prove that you don't have any revenue from the project. So this is an opportunity to fund and finance projects that can be self-sustainable and acceptable for local and regional bodies, where you offer public content that can be used by citizens and tourists that have revenue from tickets, for example, zip lines, and you have commercial content. We are aware that our stakeholders have problems with capacity, with fiscal capacity, and with the project preparation. So within this financial instrument, we plan a component of technical help, which would help them and support them in preparing the projects. They would have the idea, and HBOR would have a special body for technical support, which would help to structure these kind of projects in order for them to be cost effective. Everything that our colleague from Lithuania presented, we have an important experience in the implementation of projects. This would be an approach that would be specific for every project. So this is a fund, not a financial instrument. It's not a loan that is the same for everyone, but it would be it would be about financing a project. Everything would be structured in order to be comprehensive for each and every project. If the project is not enough cost effective, there will be grants and they can apply for those. Just like Mrs. Perko said in the beginning, everything has to be green and digital. The criteria will be horizontal, the same for all of the projects, but they cannot be implemented for every project. It will deal with concepts of smart villages, smart cities, for the digitalization, for smart management of this project, green roofs, using of circular economy, recycling, and all of these horizontal values. It won't be the aim of the project, but it will be the purpose to write down the principle. That is great. Thank you, Diana. You said a lot in a short time. When we're talking about the principle right off, the applying for grants and financial instruments, and to apply commercial cost-effective projects, I hope that the interest in our local and regional bodies will be big, and that there will be a negative competitiveness between cities and local and regional bodies. If you can just shortly say what is the time frame for the implementation of the fund, so that we can give our other panelists the chance. As soon as possible. We had some consultational processes with many cities. There will be 22 cities, and with our regional coordinators, so there is a lot of interest. As soon as we implement the selectional criteria, as soon as the program is approved, we will allocate our funds to HBOR. We lost you again, Diana. Here I am again. So as soon as the program is adopted, HBOR will have the grants and the first choice for local and regional bodies will be made. Diana, thank you very much. Digital and green components will be much valued. So digital and green components are beginning to be more and more important for yearly financial programs. The concept of smart villages and smart cities is getting into focus much more in the previous years. Today, we can take the chance to use the experience from Denmark, since we have our colleague from the Danish embassy here. And we would like to hear a bit from them. Mr. Žarko Mašanović is here and Mr. Benjamin Terzik is here with us today. And we would like to hear how Denmark is approaching these innovative solutions. How do they get funding from the state from one part? How are they rated by the citizens? Are they happy with their lifestyle, which are being given by this kind of projects? Dear colleagues, please give us a short summary of the Danish experience.
Thank you. I would like to say that Denmark is basing its current business on sustainability, generally, on sustainability of growth, on keeping the standards of life and improving them, especially with the aim of technology, which is being promoted in Denmark for the past 20 years, but systemically in the past 10 years. When we are talking about smart cities, Denmark has reached 66% of local and regional bodies which have a smart strategy regarding a smart city and a smart municipality. It has been announced that up to 2025 we will reach 92%. What the Danish have in their DNA is efficacy of local government, efficacy at any level, efficacy in governing at local and national level. What is also important to say for Denmark is that all the initiatives that they have, they try to include as many stakeholders as possible. These are not only people from cities or people from at the state level. As many stakeholders as possible are included in order to have many ideas. This means leading managers of companies are included, the university professors, everybody who wants and who can contribute to the development of a better society in Denmark is included. There is a set of urban regions which are aimed at being green and digital. And the Danish have implemented this at different levels in small municipalities, in small regions, and in big regions. Some cities in the past 10 years have completely been developed in world leaders in robotics, for example. This is where the Danish have shown that they are pragmatic people who have managed to implement all the strategies about which the others are only talking at this stage. Thank you for your ideas for local and regional bodies. Now I would like to hear Mr. Benjamin Terzik and his view from the perspective of the citizens. Do the citizens appreciate the work of the public bodies when it comes to improving the quality of life of the citizens.
This is in English, it's much easier for me. But I'll say that the everyday life in Denmark is very digital. We don't even think about this anymore because it's been like this for 10 years maybe. We have this digital platform called HBOR.dk. It's an online digital platform, of course, that replaces all physical public services. So as I told Shark the other day, I have not been at the public administration for maybe 10 years. Last time it was when I had to renew my passport. So that is just to tell you that we don't have this public administrations physically anymore. We do it all online, digital, and it's very much focused on do it by yourself, so self-service, instead of having this people employed to assist us. When we have any assistance in Denmark, it's more technical issues. So how to access the right web pages, how to find the right information on these web pages, rather than having the hardcore help from them. We also have really good systems for paying our bills every month. That is done automatically. I don't need to go to the bank. But I think the best thing we have in Denmark right now that we can really feel is the digital post. So we don't have got any physical letters. I've never had a physical letter from any institutions or government or anything in Denmark. But I'm also young. But still, I don't have any letters physically. It's all digital, which means I can always access it. It's my contracts for working, it's my diplomas from the universities, it's everything is gathered in this online secure mailbox. And that is really appreciated in Denmark, that it is secure and that we know what it is and we don't need paper or anything else. So that was short.
Hvala vam najljepša. Lijepo je to čuti.
Thank you very much. It is really nice to hear that. I can say that Croatia is in the process of digitalizing as many services as possible. And also in the context of the COVID pandemic, this is really what is necessary. Also, what makes us happy when it comes to the regional and local bodies is that their business processes are increasingly becoming e-processes. And those are of course the ideas of projects which can be financed in this new period between 2021 to 2027. Thank you very much. Let me see the questions. Ms. Diana Bezjak, there is interest in her presentation, in her topic. These might be some steps toward organizing a topic for a new conference. Thank you for your commendations as well. We are a bit above our time. I would like to ask if anybody has a question. In the meantime, I would like to ask my colleague, Mrs. Šimunec, to say something about the projects, the project preparation, especially the preparation of the financial models and financial instruments. So Ivana, what are the challenges? What are the things to pay attention to?
Thank you, Helga, for your question. Other than it was already mentioned that it is important to connect the projects with the strategic documents. I would emphasize that it is important to connect the project budgets with the project activities. So the costs that the user plans has to be according to the goal of the implementation of the project. It is important to dimension the cost based on the activities. So all of the costs that you need for the implementation of the activities have to be necessary and their values have to be optimal. It is very important to understand the activities and what the user has to have, which necessities he has to have during the implementation of the projects. In order to understand the cost of the project, it is also important to understand the role of the user of the project. While planning the budget, it is important to research the market, to make a market analysis, to look at the market trends, the cost trends. And while planning the project, we have taken into account the risks of the cost that can be bigger. The project has to be sustainable so that it lasts after the project activities are finished, after its implementation, that is still alive. So the operative costs have to be taken into account when we're talking about the results of the projects. Thank you, Ivana, for this fast advice when we're talking about project and budget implementation and preparation. So the local regional bodies have to take all of this into account while preparing their project. Thank you to all the panelists. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the valuable information that you shared with us. I hope you will stay until the end and listen to our last panel about technical support and counseling services while preparing and implementing the projects. Ms. Martina Kloponen-Turk, Vice Head of Varaždin County, Mr. Tomislav Barbarić, Advisory of the Technical Support in the County of Osijek-Baranja, and the Head of County of Vuka. I hope the technical part is functioning, that you can hear me well. So the preparation of the projects will be our focus for the next 2 or 3 years. We will base all our activities on this. There is need for support for the preparation of projects. And the European Bank for Development, together with Ernst & Young, conducted a short survey in the local and regional bodies about the topic of what they need while preparing of projects. Ms. Memišević-Tetic, could you inform us about the results of the survey?
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me well? Before I start with my presentation, I would like to say why we started with all this. Within developing our strategy, as we heard in the introductory speech and other presentations, we detected a need for technical assistance. As you have heard, HBOR is promoting 2 models of technical assistance. Even though these projects are very successful and they manage to assist the public and the private sector in designing their projects, they are still more focused on energy efficiency, the environment, and the natural capital. But as we were designing the strategy, we realized there is a need for technical assistance in the development of socio-economic and infrastructural projects, which are not necessarily related to the segments I mentioned. And all the new projects which are going to be financed from the said frameworks are going to need to have the component of protecting the environment, of course. However, we do need this new component of technical assistance. We, however, didn't know what the role of HBOR should be in this sense. And just like our colleague Justinas said we need to study the market very well first. We have done this with consultants from Ernst & Young. Helga, I would like to thank you for the support you have given us in this project. It is not only that we studied what other development banks are doing. We studied what 5 development banks are doing in Europe to see the best practice. We also wanted to talk to the key stakeholders. Some of those are the ministries. We had excellent cooperation with the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Regional Development. They are the key stakeholders in this project. Also, local coordinators, and I would like to say the most important role is with the bodies of local and regional government, as they will be using our services. Apart from those interviews that we conducted, we also wanted to reach as high number of clients as possible. So we devised a questionnaire, which was filled out by 78 LSOs, which means we have achieved a big picture of needs in this segment. Now I would like to present to you briefly the results we have reached. I hope you are able to see.
Dakle, od tih 70
So out of the 78 regional and local bodies, 2/3 of participants stated that they do not have enough administrative resources for the project preparation. 86% said it would be useful for them to have additional control and project documentation revision before submitting, before applying. The question, in which part of the project preparation they need assistance, most of them said they needed when devising the study of feasibility and the analysis of needs. 75% stated they needed it in the preparation of technical documentation. Also, when asking how they made sure they had technical assistance in preparing the project, more than 70% stated that they did this with their own with their own funds by engaging an expert, an external expert. 48% stated they used the educational workshops of the responsible bodies in the area of EU funds, and 43% used the services of local developmental agencies. 30% used the services of regional coordinators. It is important to say that 42% of all the participants in the questionnaire said that without an external technical assistance, they would not even start preparing a project. This shows us how important it is to enable external technical support. Now, a question is raised, how they evaluate the technical support available. We have different answers here. More than 50% consider that it is available, but only 20% state that it does satisfy all the needs. What we also saw in the written questionnaire is that technical assistance is really available when they need it, only when they finance it themselves. So in most cases, the technical support available does not satisfy all their needs. When asking how they acquire the information necessary on the possibilities of financing projects, most participants use the information on websites. However, 75% use workshops and events organized by the local and regional developmental agencies and ministries. So this is also important, as we can see. How do the participants make sure, or how do they make sure that the preparation of a larger number of projects is available? 42% say they need to strengthen their own capacity in preparing the projects. In this segment, they say that they really need additional informational activities on the development of projects, on the possibilities of financing through different kinds of EU funds. In the interviews we had, and also in the written questionnaire, a lot of participants emphasized the importance of emphasizing the criteria more, and on discussing the challenges and the mistakes they can make in the preparation of a project. Mrs. Beziak also mentioned that it will be important to know the phases of project preparation, and this is what we also found out through the questionnaire. Workshops on project planning and project preparation are very important. Also, so 67% consider this important, but also workshops on the feasibility studies are important for a lot of participants. While we were discussing the topic with the participants in the questionnaire and interviews, and also when we wanted to see what they needed as support in project preparation, we came to the conclusion that our assistance is definitely necessary. And it seems that it's necessary in all the phases of project preparation. What Mrs. Beziak nicely concluded is that we have actually managed to create and in the end to finance self-sustainable projects, but there is a large need for technical assistance from the phase of preparing the project, especially in the questions of legal aspects, financial structure of the project, and the preparation, whether it is from finance from the EU funds or from other sources such as developmental banks or commercial banks. They need technical assistance in all these phases of project preparation, and this is what we are doing in this model, to offer technical assistance in all these phases. I would also like to say that the educational segment is also important. And Harvard has had 3 workshops in cooperation with Ernst & Young. We also had a roundtable, and I would like to say that this conference is the final phase of these workshops. We are also going to continue with our educational workshops in the future. Thank you, Anela. This very informative report. There is definitely still a place for technical assistance. The model of giving technical assistance is going to be updated. There will be different financial instruments, and it will also be financed. projects will also be financed in creating technical assistance. HBOR is an institution which supports the development of projects, and it will also continue to give its support. However, apart from HBOR, in providing support and strengthening local bodies and their capacities, the role of local and regional agencies and coordinators is also big. We have the representative of developmental agencies, Mrs. Opotan took. Who are your clients when preparing projects? And would you say that the activities that you provide are enough? And are these activities done by the ministries or some other stakeholders?
Hello, everyone. Do you hear me? I would try to shortly answer your questions. So we are institution according to the policy of regional development. So that is a prerequisite with which we can cooperate in the field. Those are the bodies, so government, public law bodies, so health institutions, cities, municipalities, so all of the public institutions. How much are we on the field? According to our resources, in order to cover the preparation of these projects, so we are maximally on the field as much as we can and as much as we are needed. We are proactive towards all of the government public law bodies to the realizing of the preparation of the projects and their implementation. But the major role is how they are prepared to cooperate with us, or even their fear to include us in the projects. Do they want to get involved in such a complex thing, like the relationship with banks, or what does that mean for me on the field? And what kind of financial capacity and human capacity to be involved in something like this? When we're talking about complementarity, there is room for improvement, of course. But I would like to say to everybody who is listening to this panel today, I would like to state a fact. So we as regional coordinators are putting all our resources, giving all our resources to public law without any fees. So the information from the field, we are networking with we are communicating with other stakeholders and regional coordinators. So there's some problems, not only in our county, but in the region of whole Croatia. When we are getting the information that some municipalities or public law institutions, they didn't even get information that they can get our support without any financial cost. So this is an information that I would definitely underline here, because we, regional coordinators, can help in the whole system. The Ministry of Regional Development often calls us, and they often use us in that kind of way. And that is why we actually exist, in order to connect the ministries and the field. But I also have to say that other ministry, other than our resource ministry, are not informed enough that they can fasten the processes through us. They're trying to communicate directly. They're still trying to communicate directly. So in the past few days, we got information from the field that 2 different ministries are looking for information from our cities and counties. And we hear it from the cities and not from the cities directly, when the ministries could use us for that. Yes, thank you very much. The work of regional agencies and regional coordinators is very important. So you use the funds as regional coordinates from the operational program for competitiveness and cohesion. And that is why you made it possible for your users to use your services for free. Mr. Barbaric, what kind of support do you offer to your clients?
Ispričavam se, da. Dobar dan. Ja sam sad ispričao sve. Šalim se.
Hello. Regional coordinators, most of us give similar services to our clients. Those are public bodies. Each coordinator for their municipality and county, specifically in the area of EU projects. A little bit less when it comes to informing on EU projects. Since there has been a change in the law, we have become what we are today. Some time was needed for clients to get used to our role and what they can actually get from us. Apart from direct work on preparation of projects for clients and organizing different events, we have also spent 2 years preparing the work of our counties in the next 7 years. So you know very well what is expected within the strategical framework. Do you do feasibility studies and assist in the preparation of projects? There is a need, but we do not have the capacity to do feasibility studies. We don't do cost-benefit analysis. We assist in the preparation of projects. We give suggestions to our clients to outsource external experts to do such studies. Thank you very much. We also have the Vuka municipality, the mayor of Vuka municipality here. You are planning your developmental program, Mr. Maricic. What are the problems you're facing? How do you cooperate with the developmental agency and with the Croatian Bank for Development? Hello, everybody. I did not participate in the questionnaire which was presented, but however, if I had, I would have confirmed each answer that was presented. The challenges we are facing is we are a small municipality, one of the smallest ones, and we can only say that municipalities such as the Chapin municipalities may be the only one which is big enough. We do have to get external experts. The problem here is the price. Most projects, the problem is that we do not have the experts who will give us correct information when it comes to the timing of calls. Today, I found out a lot at this conference, and calls are expected at the end of this year. But from the Ministry of Agriculture, the information I got is that some projects will start at the beginning of 2023. Unfortunately, I have not received specific information regarding this before this conference. We do engage external experts. This costs money. The costs of preparing projects are going up, and we would definitely need the measures of financing the preparation of project documentation, because each document that was devised by us is a very good investment. We do have projects which are waiting, but it's always better to have more projects. We always try to cover each call where we can identify that there is something we can do. When it comes to county agencies, they have helped us really. For example, the measure 741, we relied here on the county agency in Osijek. Specifically, Mr. Barbarić helped us, and I would like to thank him for that. When it comes to the agencies, we do expect more from them, specifically when it comes to technical support. We think they are the first ones who will get the information from the responsible ministries, and maybe they could be more proactive toward us and offer us specific dates when they find out about a call. Maybe to give more consulting services. We can have an external expert, but if we give them a wrong information, our project will not be acceptable. In this sense, the agencies could help us to give us direction because they represent the ministries, and this is what interests us the most. Thank you. And yes, we raised a loan with HBOR. It is about the reconstruction of an apartment building. This was in 2019. It was with the interest rate of 1.7% for 3 years. We needed this money to bridge the gap until we got the return of funds from the Fund of Regional Reconstruction. Are you familiar with the funds from the Regional Development Fund? I think this is, yes, we are, and I think it's very good that these projects are going now. If we had had them 3, 4, or 5 years ago, we would have done a lot more. When we have a look at the price of construction work, which is going up, we have always had to finance something at the beginning of a project. Now this price is going up, and so we have to invest in the preparation of a project. Therefore, we don't have the money to prepare another project, which we also need, because we are a small municipality. So when it comes to the information on projects and the preparation of projects, we do not have the capacity to employ 1 or 2 persons who will be only dealing with this. So it's really nice to get specific information, such as the information we got today. Thank you very much. So the plans of the Croatian Reconstruction Development Bank are positive, as you say, and you are going to make sure that you're informed on these projects. When it comes to our project, apart from interviewing local and regional bodies and ministries, just like Mrs. Memišević just said, we have connected with different developmental banks in the member states of the EU, and we have received information that similar activities are being done by other developmental banks as well. In this sense, I think we are on a good way, and I believe that the activities done by all the stakeholders, especially the responsible ministries as well, will contribute to the absorption of the available funds, and also, of course, that they will contribute to such projects which will have long-term positive effect. I believe you will agree with me that this concludes our today's conference. I regret that we didn't get more questions from the audience. There aren't enough informing and educational activities, so you will surely be informed on more conferences of this kind where you can get important information. I would like to thank all the stakeholders and participants. I hope there weren't any technical issues. I'd like to thank the colleagues from the Croatian Developmental Bank and the organizers of the conference who have enabled us to organize this conference on such a short notice. such an interesting topic. I would like to agree to all of you. I can see that Mrs. Perko is with us as well. Maybe you would like to say something for the end.
Ništa, evo, mislim da je ovo bilo zaista jedna zanimljiva konferencija, zanimljiv dan. Nadam se.
I can say this was a very interesting conference. I hope that. So we do. I can see 157 people in the audience. I do believe it has been interesting and useful for everybody. This is an incentive for us, motivation for us to discuss these topics from different aspects. And I can say that really we have done a full circle from the consultants, the bank, the ministries, to the clients themselves. We have covered international experiences. I hope it was interesting and useful. And I am really looking forward to using this information in the future. I'm looking forward to future projects, both from HBOR and from other institutions as well. I would like to wish you a nice day and a nice weekend also. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.